Shmuel, welcome to the Tribesmen podcast.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
First of all, I want to show you something, which I think is very, very cool. And I'm honored that you're on the show because I've been following you for a while. I've been watching your Torah wisdom. As you said in the pre-show, your goal is to make Torah wisdom go viral. So I actually have The Journey
Ah,
of Your Ultimate Self, which is a book that Rabbi Shmuel Reichman wrote, which is about the weekly Torah portion. And I go through this weekly. You are on the list of readings as well as lessons in leadership by Lord Rabbi Sachs. Thank you, by Lord Rabbi Jonathan Sachs,
oh,
because
I've
I
never
like to,
mentioned that sentence, but I appreciate that.
yeah, because I like to see people's point of view, Rabbi's point of view, people of wisdom, just on a week-to-week basis. So thank you for writing this book. I'm a big fan and I enjoy it.
Thank you so much. It means a lot.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your story. You have smicha. You're a rabbi, very entrepreneurial. You've gone viral many, many times. Your videos, you did TEDx. Tell us kind of like where your journey started and how you got to this point of being in the business world, entrepreneurial, coach, consultant, all these things.
So first of all, thanks so much for having me. Great to be here. Love what you do. Love what you're building. Love the impact you're having.
Thank you.
It's a real pleasure to be here. And I'm just blessed, really. I never in a million years thought I'd be here. I was pretty much a normal kid, had no aspirations or dreams. I went through a real health crisis when I was like 17 or 18 when I was in Israel. And I started asking, questions like, what's the purpose of life? Why am I here? And I started looking around and seeing like a really sad story, which is that so many people are kind of just coasting through life and they're kind of surviving. They're not thriving. So I started to ask, like, what could life be like if you tried to become all you could become? And it led me on this journey of growth where I started to pursue wisdom, seek out mentors and teachers and rabbis and read and think and pursue, just developing skills and thinking and writing. And it's kind of one thing led to another and getting a great education, finding great people, building great relationships. And then I kind of hit this real wall, which is if you want to make an impact and you want to change the world and you want to do great things, it's really hard to do that without having a source of income, without having a real source of income where you're independent. And so many people who are passionate about ideas and wisdom, whether it's religious and spiritual or just, esoteric and philosophical, they struggle because you have to get a job. And if you're going to get a job doing what you love doing, usually you have to teach at a school and get hired by a community. And then you're kind of locked in where you're not getting paid very well. And you're also now an employee. So you're not really leading your life. You're working for someone else. And so many people I speak to who are like 50 and doing that, they start out in their 20s wanting to change the world, inspire the world, do great things, write, travel, speak. Then they started learning, they found a way to make a living doing what they love, but now they're locked in 30 years into the dream and they're not really doing what they want to do because they're an employee. So the question became, how do you build financial freedom so that you can support yourself, your own mission, and then kind of open up all the doors? So that kind of led me down the entrepreneurial lane of building a business, creating, more of the Tony Robbins model of, master classes and online courses and books and, speaking engagements, seminars, business coaching, business consulting. And, one thing led to another. And now I get to do what I love, which is write, speak, teach, and have a business that is aligned with that, but also supports the mission.
Love it. And you do, I mean, this book is thick, my friend. Like you've written not just one, but did you grow up observant?
Yeah. So I grew
Okay.
up observant. But I like to think of myself as someone who grew up observant. And then, the Hebrew word Baal Tshuva,
Yep.
someone who like came back on the path. So I like to think of myself as someone who is, it's fascinating. People who are Bali Tshuva, who come back to the path, they're usually passionate, driven, open-minded. They're just in love with religiosity because they chose it,
Yeah.
because they had to ask the questions and find the answers, and they're genuinely choosing their life. Whereas if you grew up observant, a lot of the times you're kind of like a semi, open-minded person. You're kind of like somewhat of a zombie going through the
Yeah.
motions. Uh, and I like to think of myself as someone who's inspired by the type of person who grew up non-observant and became observant, because when I was 17 or 18, I really fell in love with the mindset of a Baal Tshuva, someone who is pursuing the truth, not just living the life that they were, born living or told to live. And it's really hard to choose your life because it's a lot of responsibility to try to find the answers, to try to take ownership and responsibility over the life you're living, as opposed to just delegating that to someone else, saying, okay, you tell me the answers, tell me what I'm supposed to do, and I'll just do that. So the type of mindset of open-minded, full of life, kind of seeing where the truth takes you and actually wanting to live life fully, I think of myself as, inspired by that type of person trying to live that type of life.
And I love, you can tell the passion that you have in when you speak and the videos that you post. And when you talk about like being observant, but then being about like Baal Teshuva, this new idea, what's that one thing that drove you more close to spirituality, to Hashem, where you're like, oh, this is what I'm going to hold on to first on my journey?
I'd have to say living a why type of life, which is when you ask people, why do you do what you do? It's very, very hard to find someone who has built a life where they can explain why they do what they do in every aspect of their life. Like, why do you think the way you think? Why do you live the way you live? Talk the way you talk? Dress the way you dress? Like, why are you going to school? Why are you practicing this profession? Why are you building this type of life, this type of family? And most of the people, it's like, it's really, really hard to live a why type of life because, again, it's such a weighty responsibility to have a why behind every what. And when I started to ask why and start to find real depth, like it's hard because once you ask why, there's a risk. If you don't find a good answer,
Yeah.
you have to either close your mind and say, don't ask why, or you have to reject the what. So if you're eating a certain type of food and you say, why am I eating this? And then you delve into it and you're like, am I trying to live a healthy life, vibrant life, high energy life, high performance, succeed? Or am I basically, I have bad habits and I don't want to address them? And it's like, once you open that door, you either open it up, you realize you're living a life you shouldn't be living and you change, or you quickly close that door and you basically suppress it and you ignore it the rest of your life because it's going to require change. So when you ask deep philosophical questions or spiritual questions, like what's the purpose of life? Like, why am I here? Like, why are we doing, like, why do we do anything that we do? And if you're an existentialist and you actually care, it's a really scary question to ask because if you go down that door, you don't know what you're going to find. So once I started going down that door and started finding brilliance and wisdom and ideas and just this opportunity to live fully alive, fully aligned, and vibrantly, passionately pursuing the truth and not having to give up everything to pursue the truth, but getting more in touch with everything, that kind of just, it gives you kind of this like the suit of armor and weaponry to engage in the battle of life, which is the fact that life is difficult. You're going to go through challenges, health struggles, physical struggles, wealth struggles, relationship struggles. Everyone's struggling in some way. And when you're living in alignment with something higher than yourself, and you feel like every moment of your life means something, it's the ultimate way to live, where you're not giving up yourself to live spiritually, but living spiritually actually makes life all the more valuable.
Love that. And is that what brought you to self-mastery? Because you talk a lot about self-mastery. And I think that's a term that gets thrown around a lot in the self-development world. And to me, what self-mastery means is that you have the confidence in yourself. You've got the knowledge of what you're thinking. You can, shut down or control the committee in your mind, right? To be able to perform at a high level, to be present with your family, to love your wife, to make a lot of money. That's what it means to me. What does self-mastery mean to you?
Self-mastery, it comes from the answer to a fundamental question, which is what's the purpose of life? So let's kind of go through the spectrum. You can go through a very egocentric, atheistic perspective of there is no goal of life, there's no purpose of life, survival of the fittest, just take care of yourself, survive. So self-mastery is important because You got to make a living, you got to succeed, you got to find a spouse, you got to be happy, figure out whatever you want, and then just go rack up life. Right? That's like the classic self-help approach. And then you have the classic spiritual approach, which is give up what you want, give up your life, your identity, everything that you want for God. So it's really a God-centered life. And then there's a deeper spiritual approach, which is the reason God created you is not to give up yourself, but for you to actualize your potential, for you to become your true self, your best self, who you were designed to become. You know, when someone fulfills their purpose, like the purpose of a pen is to write, the purpose of, you know, think of like the purpose of your phone, communicate, connect to people, make phone calls, purpose of a human being to actualize their potential. Once that's the frame of life, that the purpose of life is to actualize your potential, then the entire story of life is becoming the best version of you. So self-mastery is living in alignment with who you really are, which is your intellectual potential, your emotional potential, your spiritual potential, relationship potential, physical health, leadership, financial success. Like every aspect of life is just a category, an aim, a goal to master. And when you give yourself, like when you value your time and you value yourself and your story, you want to write your story. It's like, what would be the ultimate? You watch a film, right? It's kind of like a meta structure of, you know, in 2 hours you get, 50-year story condensed into like its ultimate expression of awesomeness, right? It's like if your life was a film, if your life was a book, what would that be? And then you write it. And you master your life. You start mastering your mind, your emotions. You start mastering directions. You create goals. You create a vision. And you start exercising. You start building emotional depth and empathy. And you start, building traction and building a leadership vision for your life. And you could lead your family. You could lead your community. You could impact 1,000 people, 100,000 people, 1,000,000 people. But you start by saying, who do I want to become? You start scaling that and doing it. And then as you go on that journey, it starts to expand and express into every other part of life where you become part of something bigger than yourself, a marriage, a family, a community, the world. So self-mastery is really just a simple question. How do I become the person that I was created to become?
I love it. And I want to stir the pot a little bit if I can.
For sure.
Because I know the listeners and I know the guys, what they might be asking. Coming from a Jewish community where a lot of people in the community feel like there's a lot of rules and regulations for being Jewish. Like I started, once in a while I'll wear tzitzit just because like it makes me feel good, right? And I started washing my hands in the morning, and little by little I've added more and more things that make me feel spiritual. And by the way, I went to the day school, Hebrew day school, my whole life. I learned all about these things, and I'm coming back, right, from all of the learnings. You talk about full potential, and I feel like a lot of the guys who are listening might feel that I can't be my full potential if I'm observant or Jewish, and I hold all the rules, and I have to eat kosher, and I can't go out, and I can't do this, and I can't do that. I can't live my full potential. So how do you answer that?
It's a great question. It's probably the most fundamental question when it comes to living a great life. And you start by asking a simple question, which is, what is life? Like, what type of life do you want to live? And the example I like to think of is think about sports. Like, we're guys, we love sports. If you want to rock up football, you can be the best athlete in the world. Right? If you're one of those people who's like, yeah, but like I want to play football where there's no out of bounds and where there's, think about the end zone. I'm going to stretch the end zone 10 more feet, and the field goal, I'm actually going to, if you hit the outside, as long as you hit the field goal post, the doing counts, right? It's like, that's great. Like, you can be the greatest at that game. You're just not playing football, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone's playing football. It's like LeBron James playing basketball, right? If LeBron James said, you know what, I'm actually going to play with, different rules, he can be the best at that game, but he's not playing basketball. The reason why he's one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time, is because he's playing the game, all right? Tom Brady plays the game. The way you rock up life is you enter the game, and then within that arena, you find that that's where the game comes to life. So there's different ways to rock up the game. There's different ways to be a great quarterback in football, different ways to be a great receiver, different ways to be a great cornerback in basketball, different ways to be a great guard, great forward. But there's a structure in place, and that's where the game comes to life. Right? You can argue with the refs sometimes. You can try to, figure out where the boundaries of the rules are, but the rules actually create the game. Because without the rules, without the structure, there's no game. Right? If you say forget the shot clock, forget where the game doesn't end when it hits zeros. The game ends once the last person scores, like one last possession. It's like, okay, that's great. You're just not playing the game. So this is really just metaphysics 101, is you want to figure out what the game of life is. Is the game of life to survive? Is the game of life to win, to dominate, to get power, to be happy, to be successful, to have, deep relationships, to make money, to learn wisdom? You start with the fundamentals. The moment that you buy into a game and you say, like, this is the game worth playing, like, this is the game of life, then you buy into the game and you figure out what the rules are of the game, and you fully game it. Like, that's when you rock the game. That's the starting point. That's the kind of like the entry point into the answer. The deeper answer is that the rules of spirituality are different than the rules of sports. Right? When you think about politics, sports, finances, taxes, there's games. Every aspect of life's a game. Right? Thought leadership, building and business, entrepreneurship, it's a game. Right? You have to basically brand yourself, market yourself, sell, scale it, make money to make more money, invest that money to make more money. Real estate's a game. Everything's a game. And the rules of the game are actually quite arbitrary if you think about it. Like, why, let's go through every single game, right? Football, why is a quarter 15 minutes? Why is it 40 seconds, for delay of game? Why is a touchdown 6 points? Why is a field goal 3 points, point after 1 point? These are all arbitrary rules. They don't mean anything. They are just rules that allow for the game to take place, right? Taxes. Why do you pay taxes? Why that amount of taxes, right? It's like, these are games that are in place, and the rules are made up by human beings to allow for the game to continue to take place. And you can rock the game of taxes by figuring out loopholes in the tax code. You can rock up the game of sports by figuring out how to maximize strategy within game time situations to play the game at the highest level with the skill sets you have. And if you're a coach, you're basically trying to figure out how to bend the rules or use the rules to win. When it comes to spirituality, a lot of people think of rules as the same way, which is they're rules, right? Someone, either God or a human being, is coming up with rules to tell you what you can or can't do. When you think of mitzvos or mitzvot as not rules, but guidelines and entryways. So, for example, when you exercise, right? Is that a rule that when you exercise daily, you're going to feel better, live at a higher level, just emotionally feel better? It's not a rule. That's a fundamental reality. As in, it's a rule. It's kind of like a rule of physics, but it's not a rule that someone made, which is you have to exercise and then I'll let you feel good. It's a fundamental thing where if you build an amazing relationship with someone. It's not if you build a relationship with someone, then I'll allow you to feel good as a technical reward. It's a fundamental reward, right? You build intimacy, deep connection. You open yourself. You're vulnerable. You're open. You share yourself. You receive from them. So spirituality is the same way, where keeping Shabbos, it's not you have to keep Shabbos. It's that Shabbos is the gateway into an deep existential state of peace and tranquility and destination and meaning, and just getting rid of all distraction and getting rid of the process of life for a day and tapping into who you actually are. And the rules and restrictions are there, but beneath, or like I'd say a layer hidden beneath the actual fundamental surface, it's an opportunity. It's a gateway. So when you think of living a life of truth as not a life of restriction, but a life of openness, it's like, think about, why do people take drugs? Right? People take drugs for the experience,
to numb something, right?
To numb pain or to expand heightened pleasure, right? So there's two ways. I mean, we can get into why people take drugs unconsciously, socially, and just as a means of escape. But like psychedelics and drugs that people take for higher experience, they're trying to basically figure out how to tap into something higher, something more meaningful, something more worth experiencing. So spirituality is exactly like that. The more you get in touch with yourself, the more you get in touch with who you actually are, why you do what you do, why you think the way you think, why you're built, and the more you start to enter deeper into that, the more amazing life becomes. And then when you think of spirituality and Torah and mitzvahs as not something that's holding you back from life, but something that's a gateway into that, think of spiritual growth as earned, heightened experiential growth, and think of drugs as unearned, higher experience, right? So dealing with pain, for example, you can deal with pain by numbing the pain, as you just said, or you can deal with pain as number one, becoming a warrior. It's like when you go to the gym, you see people grimacing in pain, and if you take an alien from outer space and have him peek into a gym, they'll think someone's holding a gun to that guy's head, saying like, lift that or I'll kill you. But they're not only are they doing it from their own free will, they're usually paying to do that. Why? Because no pain, no gain, right? The only way you're gonna develop those muscle fibers and get that endorphin rush and heighten your level of experience is when you push yourself to the limit. So the pain is entryway, is basically the payment of entry into a heightened experience of life. So that's physical muscle, right? Emotional muscle. You go through heartbreak, you lose the job, you get rejected time and time again. You're an entrepreneur and you're just basically trying your best and you're just, feeling forward. That's deep, deep emotional muscle that you're building. It's like, I don't care how many no's I get, I'm looking for that one yes. I'll make 99 calls. I'll accept 98 no's. I just need that one yes. But that's muscle, right? Intellectual muscle, being willing to not just download data that you hear and absorb it as your opinion, but break it down, question it, actually build your own internal structure where you don't have countless internal contradictions of your own intellectual beliefs. Spiritual muscle, like delving deeper into self-awareness and your mind and your consciousness. That's hard. That's really, really hard. And it takes a lot of mental strength to control your thoughts, to still your mind, and to be able to really create a centered state of internal consciousness. But the pain and the difficulty actually is when it's enabling you to become great. So living a life of structure, of guidelines and rules and mitzvahs, it's not easy, but it's an entryway into a life of truth and idealism. And the amazing thing is that if you do what's easy in life, your life's going to be really hard. Like if you do what's easy, you'll be lazy, you'll be fat, you'll be depressed, you'll feel horrible, you'll accomplish nothing, and you'll basically be nowhere. So the only question you have to ask yourself is, what are you willing to fight for? And, for guys especially, becoming a warrior, it's like life is really hard, really hard. So the only way forward is to enter the war, to enter the arena. And if you look at your own life, the only places in life that you're satisfied with are the areas that you're fighting for. The only areas. Everything else is just this kind of like, I've given up on that. And the more things you think are worth fighting for, you just become a warrior. So, the example we gave in the gym is the easy example, right? You look at people who are ripped, who are just like, they look vibrant. They look like just like full of energy and vitality, and they look like they're alive. Like they're a warrior in the gym. Like they fight, they're an athlete. They exercise, cardio, 3 times a week, muscle 3 times a week. If you're just doing it for aesthetics, maybe it's a little, more muscle resistance work, a little less cardio. But we'll give it to you. Get a little bit of cardio with the resistance work. But that's a surface level, right? That's a physical warrior. A lot of physical warriors, they have no emotional muscle, right? They're not emotional warriors because that's beneath the surface. Intellectual warriors, if you ask people to really share their worldview, a lot of them get very, very scared. They don't want to because they don't know their worldview. right?
Mm.
They're not fighting for it. They're not intellectual warriors. When it comes to your sense of real identity and self, like, are you a warrior? Like, have you fought for yourself? Like, do you know who you are? Do you know what your life is about? That's being a warrior. That's putting up a battlefront. It's building the weaponry to engage in that battle every single day. And sometimes it's just financial, right? It's like sometimes people are just financial warriors. Like they are rocking it up in stocks and real estate and businesses and ventures and different things. Everything besides for that, which looks nice, it looks like you're, rocking up life. The moment you enter into their actual life, there's nothing there,
Yeah.
right? They've created a castle, but there's nothing in it.
You talk about being a warrior real quick, and one image comes to my mind is that when I put, when I wrap tefillin and I put my talit over my head, it feels like I'm wearing like the warrior's, you
Yeah,
know, armor to go to war.
yeah, seriously.
Um, and I don't know if you watched, there's a series called David that I watched on Netflix,
I've heard
and
of it. Yeah.
as they're like going into battle, they're wearing tefillin. Like that's part of like the, accurate or not accurate, but I saw that I was like, oh, warrior, right? And my question to you is then, as a Jewish man, I think we're all listening to podcasts and reading books, and I do leadership development full time. That's my full time job, and everyone's looking to be a better leader. And how do we do this? But I think there's a different approach. There's like the Torah and the Jewish approach to self mastery, as opposed to what the world is saying. What are maybe three or four major differences? And you're talking about like depth and learning. And I think that, growing up in a Jewish school, I realized that because they made me study, today I can open up a book and learn from my MBA and not have to go to my phone every 3 seconds. I can ask questions. I can debate because that's what we did in Gemara class when I was, 14 years old. And so, but at the same time, there's so much information around us. Yet I believe that we have this guide and this, and I just call like for lack of a better term, like this magic that we have in Judaism, right? Like this incredible source of warriorness. What do you think are the three or four differentiating factors from everything else that's being taught to what we have in our books, in our wisdom that are thousands of years old?
It's a brilliant question. So I think the answer, at least from my perspective, is to kind of think about the question and go deeper into the question. Because my personal passion in life is the pursuit of everything valuable, right? So within, let's say, the realm of Torah, you have Chumash, you have Gemara, Talmud, you have learning Talmud in more depth, you have Jewish philosophy, you have Kabbalah, deeper Jewish wisdom, you have Musar, self-development. And then if you look at the world, you have, athletes, right? You have psychology, you have philosophy, you have physics, you have entrepreneurship and business and leadership, and you have building a family and expanding and public speaking and writing. And the question is like, what's valuable in there? Like, which one's valuable? Like, which one's a fruit, orange or apple? Like, what's valuable, money or happiness? Like, we kind of create binaries of like which one's right, which one's true, which one's valuable. So like, which one's better, Judaism or everything else? And like, if you look at let's say just the world itself, music and culture and the world of science and psychology and philosophy and politics and self-development. And then you look at Judaism and Christianity and Islam and Buddhism and Hinduism and scientific intellectuals. Everyone's trying to make a claim on what's valuable and what's true, right? And what Judaism and what the Torah, the essence of what its unique approach is not saying this is better than that. It's actually unifying everything into a central harmonistic whole. So it's not saying, what's better, being like more conservative and more traditional or being more open-minded and creative. It's not saying what's better, men or women. It's not saying what's better, philosophy and science or tradition and religion. It's not saying what's better, making money or building a family. It's saying, how do you take everything that's valuable and integrate it into a harmonistic whole? So, like, for example, think about most people's careers, right? Are you going to pursue your passion or are you going to make money, right? Are you going to be spiritual or are you going to be intellectually honest? Right? Are you going to work out and be physically healthy, or are you going to be spiritual and be wise? Right?
Yeah.
How many people who are pursuing wisdom are actually? It's like, I hate to say it, but a lot of
No, you're
people
right.
live a life of truth, and they look like they're 500 pounds overweight, and they look like they're exhausted, and they're haven't exercised or eaten a healthy meal in 3 years. Right?
Yes,
It's
100%.
like there is an element of difficulty and contradiction there, and that's the difference between practice and truth, which is that Judaism and Torah is not necessarily embodied in its absolute ideal way by everybody, even, by, let's say you have a leader. A leader can be doing great on 14 out of the 100 elements of life, and they're still doing way better than someone who's only doing well in three out of
Yep.
the 100. But you can't critique them and say, oh, you're only doing well in 14, and that must be Judaism is only 14 out of the 100, because people are people, right? Human beings, no matter how great you are trying to become, you're still human, you're still fragile, you're still going to be weak relative to perfection, right? So you can't look at the person, and that's like it's the biggest problem is you look at, you have a scandal and you say, oh, that person is not perfect, so it must be what they represent is not perfect. But the person is not the perfect embodiment, and no person is a perfect embodiment. So when you look at Judaism, there's so many different types of Judaism. There's Judaism that's much more legally oriented, much more philosophically oriented, much more self-development oriented, much more mystical or spiritual and lofty, esoterically oriented. There's Judaism. People in Judaism are much more Zionistic and focused on the land of Israel. Some are much more in the business world. There's a whole business subculture of Judaism. Think of any industry, any sub industry, and you can just basically say that's Judaism because I identify with it, or I see people who seem to be very passionately Jewish and identify with it. So Judaism is bigger than any one Jew or any one approach to Judaism, but the essence of Torah is harmony. So if you can think of a life where you harmonize, let's say, just the areas of Torah, right? Halacha, Jewish law, Gemara, Talmud, in-depth Jewish studies, Jewish philosophy, deeper Jewish wisdom, self-development, leadership, business success, the Jewish elements of physics and psychology and mathematics and politics and building a family and marriage and self-development and exercise. And you realize that Judaism and Torah is giving you the gateway into the opportunity of harmonizing everything. And this is perhaps the deepest element of, is the goal of life to transcend this world and to live a life of ideas and idealism and kind of lofty, transcendent, intellectual, philosophical, mystical truth? Or is the goal of life to live a very practical, physical life of, doing good, being kind, making money, building a family, just kind of living a life in this world? And the central tenet of Torah is you don't have to choose, because the truth is to harmonize them together. It's to live a transcendent life in this world, to delve deeper into spiritual wisdom, but then to manifest it and express it. So it's the same thing, like you have to live a life of passion and purpose or a life of financial success. You don't have to choose between the two. If you
Yeah.
become great at something and you love it and you devote your life to it, you'll become more financially successful than anyone who's living one or the other. And not only, it's like, by the way, like wealth is relative, but for people who are able to live a life of passion and purpose and go down that rabbit hole, go through the 10 years of struggle and come out the other side, there's nothing that can stop them, because
Yeah.
they're not living like a fragmented life where they're kind of giving up who they are to make money and then coming back to who they are to enjoy life. But they found a mission and purpose in life and they just go. And then that's like, if you can harmonize that, which is living a life that you love, believe in, and then find a way to not only turn that into a way to make a living, but a way to make a life. It's like, those are the people we look up to. Those are the people
Yeah.
we admire, because it's like,
But
I want to do that.
I think we look up to them because there's peace within. And you use the word harmony, which I love. Like, I don't believe in work-life balance. I believe in work-life harmony because sometimes the higher note's going to be a little bit louder than the lower note, or the lower note will be higher than the higher note. As long as it's in harmony, it sounds good. And it's not like, what was that singer on American Idol who couldn't sing a lick of, the song of the Ricky Martin song, whatever. But you said something, you said the essence of Torah, like Judaism, is harmony. And you also brought up like, you can make the most money ever and you don't have to give up, who you are. I think these are all things that are presented to us nicely in Judaism, but we're not, or we don't search the path, right? Like we're not walking down the path to figure it out because we're afraid, we don't want to. Wait a second, I don't want to become a rabbi. I don't want to become so religious. I like going to dinner with my friends on Saturday night at a non-kosher restaurant, whatever those things are, right? And no judgment there. But everything you're saying sounds amazing. I want harmony and I want peace and I want to make a lot of money and I want to be good. I want to be fit, like all those types of things. So my question is, and it might be like an answer for different people, right? And I think it's a two-pronged question. It's like, what mistake are we making as Jewish men when trying to have it all? And what's the first thing that what's that first step that we need to take to have it all? And you talked about the why, right? We have to know our why. I know my why. My why, I have a personal mission statement, which is to build a legion of leaders so my daughters grow up in a better world. And that's why I do what I do. And a lot of people don't have that why, and I understand it. And they've never been asked. I'm just making money. I got to feed my family. But the deeper question I have for you is, as Jewish men, what's the first step that we need to take to start on this journey of self-mastery? Have this harmony and peace that you're talking about? Is it saying, all right, Judaism, here I come, right? Like I'm diving into the middle? Or is it like one rabbi who said, hey, keep Shabbat for 45 minutes. Put your phone down for 45 minutes. Start somewhere. What is that for you?
That's a great question. I I always tell, like when I work with my clients, a lot of my clients, they have big goals, right? They're trying to scale their business, go from 1 million to 10 million, or take their brand and start to go viral and expand it, or start to, basically reach new people and then kind of like take what they've built to another level. And usually they've been trying for a year, 5 years, 10 years, and they haven't been able to do it. And the first stage I always help them realize is you have to understand the magic formula of achieving something great. Because doing something well, doing something that's good, that's easy. That's easy, right? Doing something that's great, it takes something which very few people have, which is a clear vision that's as clear as day,
Mm-hmm.
and unlimited patience.
Mm.
And the synthesis between those two is developing willpower that people cannot understand unless they're you. Because if you look at world-class athletes, world-class entrepreneurs, world-class thinkers, philosophers, leaders, people who are inspiring, people who are doing great things, people think that they're built differently. They're talented. They're just different. But the truth is that to do something that's great is rare because it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's like, think about politics, right? We have a world that is divided in every country in the world, divided right and left, right? The right wing is usually more conservative, more traditional, more keeping things status quo. And then the left is more liberal, more expansive, trying to be creative, trying to take things to the next level. And you always have this divide where like half the country is on the right, half the country is on the left. And then you have so many people who are in the middle who say, I see the values of both. But why don't we have leaders who are nuanced, who synthesize the approaches of the two extremes? Because synthesis is really hard. It's like, again, like, why don't you find athletes who are world-class thought leaders, intellectuals, philosophers, and, why don't you find people who are making billions of dollars and also, the biggest Torah sage and leader? Like, why don't we have that? It's because first of all, it's really hard to become great at one thing, but to unite things that don't go together, it's really, really difficult. So the only way to do it is to first value it, which again, some people don't even value it, but also it takes years, maybe even decades of patiently working towards it.
Mm.
And to do that requires such a level of willpower and patience. So, to become spiritually great, it's not going to take you a day, a month, or a year. It's going to take you a lifetime to make, to build an empire that will leave a lasting impact financially for generations, generational wealth. That's not going to take you a year or a decade. That's going to take you a lifetime to become someone who's has the habits of physical vitality, exercising every day, eating healthy, getting enough sleep, mental health, nutrition. That's not going to take you a day, a month, or a year. Like that's going to take you building a lifestyle where this is who you are. So the reason why people give up is because they don't match the unique formula, which is basically as follows. You start out with an incredible goal, something that's inspiring. You then start very small, where you are now, and you build momentum and you fall in love with the journey. Mm-hmm. So the reason why people give up is either because they don't believe in the vision, they don't actually believe it enough, so they don't want it deeply enough. So once it's hard, they give up, or they just want to be there. They want to succeed. They don't want to actually live the life of getting there. So it's like, how many people want to be wealthy? Everyone raise their hand. How many people want to work 18-hour days? It's like people say like, oh, I'd love to work for myself. It's like, no, you work for yourself. You give up your 9 to 5, you work 24/7 for yourself, right? It's like, if you want to build something yourself, it's going to take you 19-hour work days, right? Because you're going to have to be obsessed. So it's not easy. It's worth it because you turn your life into the ultimate adventure that is worth living. How many people want to be in great shape? Raise your hands. How many people want to work out? How many people want a great marriage? How many people want to actually invest in it? How many people want to become brilliant and a wise, Talmud Chacham, a Torah sage, someone who's so deep and has so much wisdom? How many people want to sit down and think and work through complex problems for, 10 hours a day, every day for years? The people who are doing great things, they're not doing it with the hope of one day getting there. They're doing it because they hope to one day get there, and they love every single day of the process.
Yeah. They love the game.
They love the game. And if you study like Tom Brady, study him. Wasn't the most gifted athlete, was picked, basically second to last in the draft, had no natural talent. He had a work ethic that was unprecedented and unparalleled, and he loved the game more than anyone else, and he was obsessed. It's the only thing that he did all day, every day for a couple decades. Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Roger Federer, they're all built the same way. Look at all your role models, all the greatest Torah leaders, all the greatest financial leaders. They're obsessed with the game. They love it. They're not doing it with the hopes of getting something out of it. They want that too, right? They want the benefits of succeeding. But even if they don't succeed, they love the game. They're obsessed. And that's, if you can fall in love with the game of life, spiritual growth, emotional development, self-awareness, physical vitality, if you fall in love with the game, that's how you succeed. Otherwise, you're going to give up. It's like people who want to get in shape for the summer or for, their wedding. Like, that's great, but you don't actually want to be in shape. You want to get in shape. So the moment you're in shape for the thing, you're going to leave it because you don't want that lifestyle, that identity, that kind of vitality of life. You're just doing it for something that the moment it's over, where's the drive anymore? Right? Same thing for anything, right? If you love learning, you're going to become wise. But if you just want to become wise, you're not going to become wise, right? It's like, fall in love with the game, and falling in love with the game is hard if you don't already love it. So that's the real key. The real key.
And I think, you said something amazing that Tom Brady, I'm sure he was going through troubles in his marriage, or he was dealing with this, but he still played the game. Like that was the thing that he wanted to be the GOAT. That's why they call him the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Right. And I think that like in Judaism, we're given this path of being able to become the GOAT or whatever you want to do, but to do it in a harmonious way. Because we're learning about how to have a great marriage, how to be great fathers, how to be, there's stuff in Judaism about being healthy, from Maimonides and from Rambam and stuff like that. So we have all these things there. It's about just finding those, learning, and diving deeper. I've got two more questions for you because this has been awesome. One is, what's the one thing you tell a Jewish man who feels stuck right now? He's listening, he feels stuck. He's like, Rabbi, this sounds incredibly great. Shmuel, this sounds beautiful, right? And I understand. Does that mean I have to go put on tefillin every single day? Like, what's that first step I should be taking just to be able to wake up and say, I'm Jewish. I've got this path that I can take. What's that step they should take?
The first step you take is you take a step.
Mm,
Take a step. It's like, one time someone came to me with a really, really big problem. His life was falling apart, right? Everything was falling apart. Just lost their job, family, everything was going downhill, right? And he said, like, what do I do? Like, I'm gonna have to, do I take a job at like, the grocery store? Like, I'm gonna have to sell my business. Like, I'm gonna start from scratch. Like, I just like, and it's like the best advice you can give someone like that is like, imagine you're lost in a forest and you have no idea where to go. You don't know where you're gonna get your next meal. You don't know where any source of water is. You don't know, you're just lost. So do you figure out where to go and then start going? No, you just start walking. You just start walking. So many people in life, they're just stuck. They
yeah.
don't know who they are. They don't know where they're going. They don't know what they're doing next. They don't have a direction in life. They don't have clarity. So what do you do? Where do you go? Where do you take your first step? The answer is you just take a step. Because the most important aspect of growth is momentum. It's like career-wise. Do you have to have it figured out and then you do it? No, no. You just start walking. You just start going. You start seeking opportunities. You start doing good things. You put on tefillin once. You keep one Shabbos. You just do something productive. It's like, think about exercise. Which number workout do you get healthy if you're not exercising, right? After the 20th workout, the 30th workout, the 40th workout, there's no scientifically proven number of this is how many workouts it takes to go from unhealthy to healthy. So
Yeah.
which one is it? The answer is that it's not a number. It's you just start. You just start and then you pick up the momentum. And so many people, they want to have the clarity before they start. They want to have the answers before they start. They want to know, okay, I'm in the forest. I don't know where I'm going. Which direction should I go? But if you reverse that process and say, listen, the ideal is I'm going to have everything figured out. The ideal is I'm going to know where I'm going, but I'm not going to get that clarity yet. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to start walking. I'm just going to start trying. And then you start building momentum. And then once you get out of that paralysis, you start picking up data. You're like, okay, this is working, this isn't working. Right? You go to the gym, you have no idea what you're doing. You have no idea what to lift, which exercise machine to do, and you're just like basically lost. Okay, start going to the gym for a week, for a month, and you start to figure, okay, this doesn't work. This I do like, this I don't like, this I'm good at, this I could be better at, this. You start getting mentors, you start getting coaches, start getting rabbis and leaders and people who have succeeded, and you start to explore. When you're 18, you don't know who you are, what you're doing. You try out different things, right? When it comes to any area of life, the most important thing to do is to get started, just to start literally creating movement. Once there's movement, the way I think of it is like a graph. It's like, let's say you're here and you're trying to get to there, but you don't know you're trying to get to there, right? This is where you're actually going, but in your mind, you don't know where you're going. So let's say you start out and you go in the wrong direction. You'll pick up data. You'll be like, oh, this is the wrong direction. So then you'll go there. You'll pick up more data. Then you slowly, over the course of time, you'll start moving in that direction. But if you don't start moving until you know which direction to go in, what ends up happening? You never go anywhere. And that's basically decision paralysis, which is until I have it figured out, I'm going to wait here, but you can't figure it out until you start.
Love that. Love it. So if you're listening to this, if you're stuck, as Shmuel Reichman says, just take the step, start getting the data, keep stepping, get the momentum. Rabbi, where can people find you if they want to hear more from you, if they want to watch more of your videos, if they want to reach out to you? What's the best way to get in contact with you?
Everything is on my website, shmuelreichman.com. I also have social media platforms on every social media platform, Shmuel Reichman, or Rabbi Shmuel Reichman. And if you want to email me, you can email me at shmueldreichman@gmail.com.
And we'll put all that information in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here as we tell every guest. I'd like to give, I sometimes rabbis give us blessings. I always like to give you a blessing. May you keep on having strength and courage, chazak ve'matz, to keep doing what you're doing, to keep putting that wisdom, the Jewish wisdom, the Torah wisdom out there for the world to see. Thank you so much for being here, Rabbi.
Thank you so much. And I will give you a bracha as well, a blessing to say that not only should you keep on doing what you're doing, but you do it in such a humble, insightful, and deep way. The audience you reach is diverse and from many different backgrounds. And I've been watching you for a long time. You do it in an amazing way, and you continue to grow and improve. And I love watching your journey and wishing you tremendous success in all the amazing things you're doing.
Thank you so much. And for those who are listening, stay tuned for the next episode of the Tribesmen podcast.